During my family's fancy brunch, my sister snatched my engagement ring, slipped it on her finger, and purred, "At least it looks right on someone worth looking at." My mom took photos while my fiancé sat there frozen. I leaned back and said, "Smile bigger." "That ring was reported stolen last month for a reason." Her face twitched because the ring cost Declan 4 months of overtime. A round-cut diamond set in platinum, simple, exactly what I'd pointed to in a magazine 2 years before he proposed. He remembered. That's the part that mattered. We were at my mother's house in Pasadena, the 3rd Sunday of March, the kind of brunch she throws when she wants to feel like a person who throws brunches. Linen napkins. Mimosas and actual flutes. My Aunt Patrice was there. My cousin Ren. Declan sitting next to me, his hand warm on my knee under the table. My sister Celine sat across from us. She'd always had this thing about Declan. Not wanting him, exactly. Wanting me to know she could have him if she tried. She'd done it with my college boyfriend, with my promotion, with the apartment I found in Echo Park that she talked our mother into saying was too far from family until I gave it up. Small thefts. Constant. She reached across the table under the pretense of taking the syrup near my plate. That was when she grabbed my left hand. I thought it was affectionate for half a second. Then I felt her thumb hook under the ring and slide it off my finger before I understood what was happening. She leaned back in her chair, held it up to the window light, and slipped it onto her own finger. Slow. Like she was trying on a glove in a department store. "Celine, oh, it's gorgeous," she said, not to me. To the table. To Declan specifically. She turned her hand back and forth so the stone caught the light. "At least it looks right on someone worth looking at." My mother laughed. Actually laughed, that short bright sound she makes when Celine does something she finds charming. Then she picked up her phone and took a photo. Declan went completely still beside me. I felt him stop breathing. He didn't say anything. I didn't understand that yet, why he went so quiet, but I filed it away. Ren looked down at her plate. My aunt said, "Celine, give it back," but her voice was soft, and she didn't say it again when Celine ignored her. I sat there with my left hand bare and my face hot and the whole table watching to see what I'd do. I leaned back in my chair. I picked up my mimosa. I let maybe 5 seconds go by. "Smile bigger," I said. "That ring was reported stolen last month for a reason." Celine's smile didn't drop all the way. It just twitched once at the left corner, a small involuntary thing, and her eyes went to mine for the first time since she'd taken it. Because she knew about the report. I could see it. She'd heard me on the phone 3 weeks ago when I called to do it, when I walked through the house thinking I was alone, explaining to the non-emergency line that a piece of jewelry might need to be flagged ahead of a family event. She'd been in the hallway. I'd seen her shadow under the door and assumed she'd kept walking. She hadn't kept walking. She'd filed that information away the same way I'd filed away Declan going still. We both knew something the table didn't. The difference was I knew what was coming next, and she was only starting to guess. The call to the detective had taken 11 minutes. I'd made it from a parking garage 3 weeks before the brunch, sitting in my car with the engine off and my phone pressed to my ear, reading off the ring's description from a photo I'd taken the day I got it. A 1.4-carat oval cut, platinum band, small paved stones on the shoulders. The detective's name was Ren. She'd been flat and professional and she'd said, "So you want it flagged as potentially stolen, with a known suspect?" I said, "I want it flagged as stolen with a date of recovery already scheduled." She went quiet for a second. Then, "You know who has it." "I know who's going to have it." She'd asked me to explain. I did. She didn't say it was unusual. She just typed, and I could hear the keys, and at the end she said, "We'll need you to confirm the location and time at least 48 hours out." I texted her the address of my mother's house on Thursday night. The hard part wasn't the report. The hard part was Declan. He'd been frozen at that table, and I couldn't be angry about it because I hadn't told him. He'd sat there with his champagne flute halfway to his mouth and watched my sister slide his grandmother's ring onto her finger, and I hadn't warned him because I needed his reaction to be real. I needed the table to see him go still. If he'd known, he might have reached across and grabbed it, and then it would have been a family argument, and the whole thing would have been over in 4 minutes with my mother crying and Celine handing it back with some comment about everyone being so sensitive. I told him that night. All of it. He sat on the edge of the bed and said, "You reported your own ring stolen." "Our ring." "You reported our ring stolen before your sister even took it." "I reported it stolen in anticipation of its theft." "There's a difference." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "What happens to her?" "She gets arrested at brunch." He looked at me. I looked back. "Okay," he said. Saturday morning I got to my mother's house at 10. Celine was already there, sitting at the kitchen island with a mimosa, wearing a silk blouse, the ring on her right hand because she wasn't stupid enough to wear it on the left, not yet, not in front of me. She looked at my bare left hand when I walked in. She didn't say anything. She just let her eyes drop to it and then back up to her glass, and she smiled at the rim of it. My mother was arranging a fruit plate. She'd bought a new tablecloth. She'd rented those little stands that hold the place cards. Celine said, "You look tired." "I'm great," I said. "The drive over long?" 20 minutes. She tilted the ring hand toward the window, just slightly, the way you do when you want the stone to catch the light but you want it to look accidental. "I've been thinking," she said, "that we should do this every month. This kind of thing. The whole family. It's good for everyone." My mother said, "I think so too." I poured myself coffee. My hands were completely steady. I'd been awake since 5. And I'd eaten nothing and my hands were completely steady. By 11:30 the table was full. My aunt was there. My mother's friend from her book club, a woman named Actually, who she'd invited because she wanted an audience for her hosting, for the tablecloth and the place cards and the 3 kinds of quiche. Declan was next to me. Celine was across. She'd moved the ring to her left hand somewhere between the fruit course and the eggs. I noticed it when she reached for the butter. She did it slowly, the way she did everything when she wanted you to notice. My mother took a photo of the table. Then she took one of Celine's hand near a flower arrangement, the ring centered in the frame, and Celine tipped her chin up just slightly while she did it. That was the photo I was thinking about when I texted Ren at 11:47. "Still on." "Dessert." Ren texted back one word. "Confirmed." I put my phone face down next to my plate. I picked up my fork. Across the table, Celine was laughing at something Actually had said, her left hand moving, the ring catching light every few seconds the way she'd been making sure it would all morning. She thought the worst thing I could do was make a scene. She thought I was the type to cry, or to go quiet, or to wait until the drive home and then call our mother and explain how hurt I was, and our mother would say she'd talked to Celine, and Celine would say she was only joking, and in 6 months she'd wear it again at Christmas. She had no idea that the dessert plates were coming out in 12 minutes. The dessert plates came out at 12:14. White chocolate mousse with a raspberry on top, the kind of thing my mother ordered from a place in the city specifically for occasions like this. She was already telling the table the name of the restaurant when I heard the front door. Not a knock. A doorbell, twice, professional spacing. My mother frowned and looked toward the hallway. "Who on earth, I'll get it," I said. I was already standing. I walked to the front door and opened it. 2 officers, both in uniform, one holding a small clipboard. The one on the left recognized me from the station and gave a short nod. I said, "She's still wearing it." He said, "Okay. Let us in." I walked back to the dining room first. I sat down. I picked up my spoon. Celine was mid-sentence about some trip she was planning, her left hand flat on the white tablecloth, the ring sitting there like she'd already decided it was hers. The 2 officers appeared in the doorway behind me. My mother made a sound like she'd inhaled wrong. Celine turned her head. Her mouth was still open from whatever she'd been saying. The officer on the left said, "Celine," and read her last name off the clipboard. She said, "Yes?" And her voice came out too light, like she was answering a question at a party. "We received a report last month regarding a stolen item. A ring, specifically. We have information suggesting it may be at this address." He looked at her hand. "Is that a diamond ring on your left hand?" She didn't move for a second. Then she laughed. It was the laugh she used when she thought something was beneath her. "This is a family brunch," she said. "This is my family's home. I think there's been some confusion. Ma'am, the report was filed on the 14th. The description matches what you're wearing. I'm wearing she stopped. She looked at me. I was eating my mousse. Ren. Her voice had an edge. Tell them. Tell them this is ridiculous. Ren set down his fork. He looked at Celine for a moment, then he looked at the officers, and he said, very evenly, I filed the report. The table went completely still. Celine's face did something complicated. The smile tried to come back and couldn't find the shape. You're not serious, she said. The ring belonged to my grandmother, Ren said. It was taken from our apartment. I have the appraisal, the original purchase receipt, and the filing number. I didn't take anything from her voice cracked on the last word and she pressed her lips together hard. This is insane. This is a setup. She set this up. She pointed at me, her right hand, not her left. Her left hand had gone still against the tablecloth. The officer said, Ma'am, I'm going to need you to remove the ring. I'm not removing anything. But her voice was smaller now. She looked at my mother. Mom. Mom, say something. My mother had gone the color of the tablecloth. She was looking at the officer and then at her phone on the chair beside her, the phone she'd used to photograph Celine's hand next to the flower arrangement an hour ago, the ring perfectly centered in the frame. The officer had turned to her. Are you the homeowner? Yes. We may need to speak with you as well. There are photos that were shared to us as part of the documentation. Timestamped from this morning. My mother said, I didn't know, and then stopped. Actually, who had been sitting at the far end of the table the entire time, quietly pushed his chair back 6 inches. He didn't say anything. He just moved it back. Celine saw him do it. Don't, she said, and she was looking at him now, not the officers. Don't you dare act like you weren't sitting right here, I'm not getting involved in this, actually said. You've been involved all morning, you were laughing, Celine. The officer again, quiet, no drama. The ring. She looked at her hand. She looked at me. I had finished the mousse and set the spoon down on the plate. Her chin was doing something, a small tight movement, like she was clenching her jaw to keep it from shaking. She said, You ruined my family's brunch over a piece of jewelry. I said, You put it on. She pulled the ring off. She held it out and the officer took it and dropped it into an evidence bag and sealed it, right there at the dining room table, between the mousse glasses and the raspberry stems and my mother's good silverware. Celine's left hand was empty. She sat there with it in her lap and she was breathing too fast and she looked around the table like someone was going to fix it, and nobody moved. My mother was staring at the evidence bag. Actually was looking at his phone. Ren was looking at Celine with an expression that had nothing in it. I need you to come with us, ma'am, the officer said. She stood up. She knocked the back of her knee against the chair and grabbed the table edge to steady herself and the mousse glass tipped and landed on its side and the raspberry rolled off onto the white cloth and left a small red mark. She walked out between them. She didn't look at me. My mother sat at the head of her own table in her own house with a white ring of dampness spreading on the cloth where the glass had tipped, and she said nothing at all. My mother called 3 weeks later. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened to it standing in the kitchen of the apartment actually. And I had moved into together, the one with the window that looks out over the parking garage, the one that is ours. She said she wanted to explain. She said Celine was going through a hard time. She said she hoped we could find a way forward as a family. I deleted it. She called again on a Thursday. I picked up that time. She said, she's staying with me right now. She lost the apartment. I said, okay. She needs her family too, I'm not her family right now. Silence. Then, you're being very cold about this. I said, you took photos. She didn't say anything. You took photos of her wearing my ring and you didn't say a word. The officer took your phone, Mom. Your photos are in an evidence file. That was your choice. She said, I didn't know what you had done. I hadn't done anything yet. You still took the photos. She hung up. I put the phone face down on the counter and stood there until my hand stopped feeling tight. The charges against Celine were receiving stolen property and theft by taking. Her lawyer got the theft charge knocked down, but the receiving charge stuck because of the witness statements and because of my mother's photos, which showed date and time stamps and Celine's face and the ring on her finger and my mother smiling in the background of one of them. Celine's lawyer called actually once, looking for a character statement. Actually said, no. That was the whole call. The ring came back to me 6 weeks after the brunch. I picked it up from the police property window on a Tuesday morning. The officer handed it to me in a small plastic bag and I signed for it and walked to the car and sat in the driver's seat and opened the bag and poured it into my palm. It looked the same. Small and plain and exactly what I had picked out. Actually had driven me. He was watching me from the passenger seat. I put it back on. He reached over and pressed his thumb against it once, gently, the way you check that something is real. We drove home. The brunch circle my mother had spent 11 years building, the rotating Saturday table, the women she'd hosted since before Celine and I were in high school, that was gone by October. I heard from my aunt that 2 of them had stopped returning calls after the story moved through the group. One of them had been at the table that morning. She'd watched the officer take the evidence bag. She'd watched my mother sit there and say nothing. My mother had always been the one who held things together. That was her whole identity in that group. The gracious one. The one with the good silverware and the mousse glasses and the raspberries arranged on the rim. She still has the silverware. Celine sent me a text in November. I don't know how she thought it would go. She wrote, I think we both said things that day and I'm willing to move past it if you are. I read it. I put the phone down. I picked it up again and typed, you put my ring on your finger and walked out wearing it. I didn't say anything until you were already gone. There's nothing to move past on my end. She wrote back, you had me arrested. I wrote, I reported a theft. The rest was yours. She didn't respond after that. Actually, and I got married in February. Small. 12 people. The ring was on my finger the whole time and nobody touched it but him. My mother wasn't there. That was not a decision I made dramatically or loudly. I just didn't send an invitation, and when she asked, I said we were keeping it very small, and she said she was my mother, and I said I knew that, and I didn't change anything. Celine's chair at the brunch table is empty now because there is no brunch table anymore. Mine isn't empty. I'm just not sitting at hers. 3 months ago I walked past a restaurant window and there was a table of women inside, laughing, and for 1 second I thought I saw my mother's profile, and I felt nothing in particular. That surprised me. I stood there for a moment on the sidewalk, looking in at the warm light and the glasses and the white cloth. Then I kept walking. I have my own table now. The window looks out over the parking garage. It isn't fancy. Nothing at it gets taken from me. Celine still has her mother's spare room and a charge on her record and an empty left hand. That's enough.